We're starting tonight from Chav Zayin and Aleph or Shlokish Amar. Tonight's shir is Le'ilu Nishmis Hinda Malka Bash Rabbi Yaakov Yitzchak, who's Baby Yom Yom tonight in the Shumash of an Aliyah. And we are continuing on in Pshat on our Mishnah when the Zrika was done in the wrong place. I'm sorry that the document camera is not working, so we're not going to be able to have the benefit of having the Gemara on the screen tonight. And I apologize for that. Okay. Is it good? But you're always supposed to use a Huda first because if he's Yoitzu to one that's not Huda, then he can't be Yoitzik. Yeah. Okay, gewaltig. Sagt mal weiter. I hear. Okay, so Zogmar Shlokish Omar La'olam Pasal Mamish. For Olam, the Mishnah that says that the carbon is possible, not like Shmuel, who holds that it's maratza for the Bailam, rather it's not maratza for the Bailam at all. It's possible Mamish. But I do agree with Shmuel that Shaloibim Kaimedam, that even though you split in the wrong place, the Zrik is kosher. So then how can you explain why the carbon is possible if the Zrik is kosher? The Mishnah in the second parak that says you could do it again is speaking where you spritzed the blood in the wrong place. And yeah, you could do it again because it didn't possible. But in our Mishnah, not only did he spritz the blood in the wrong place, he also had a kavanas pigel. He spoke out that he was going to eat the basar out of the time to eat it. And that's why the carbon is possible in Ganzen. Zog to Gemara, Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Chishev litten es anitten lamata lamayla, lamayla lamata. Once Rish Lakish is agreeing to Shmuel that Shaloi bim koimai is kim koimai, so all the kashas that we just went through on Shmuel, you can ask now on Rish Lakish. And the Gemara is going to answer them the same way we answered in Shmuel, Ad midi dehava machshavas hinuach v'livid Rabbi Yehuda. The brisa that said lemochar pasul chazav v'chishev bein chutz l'zman bein chutz l'mkoimai will be pasul bein bekaris. That will be because since when he made the original Kabbalah, he had in mind to do the Zrika the next day. Therefore, it passes because of Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore won't have a din pigel. Exactly like we learned in Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan had a third pshat. Idi v'idi shenosan b'shtika. There's no machshav of pigel in this mission at all. And he disagrees with Rish Lakish and Shmuel, and he holds v'shaloi b'mkoimai is lav k'mekayimidami. So therefore, it's apostle is Rika. So therefore, in our Mishnah, where there's no extra dam, the carbon's possible and answer, there's nothing you can do. The Mishnah in the next parak that says you could fix it, v'ha de'ika dam hanefesh. In the next Mishnah, there was still dam available, and therefore he could do it again. Ha de'ika dam hanefesh, ha deleka dam hanefesh. Gewaltig. Tanan we learned. Our Mishnah fears is possible ve'ein beikaris. Now, why is our Mishnah speaking about ein beikaris? It's not a pigel in here. So the Mishnah with Rish Lakish, Hanyu de Katani Pasal Vein Beikaris. According to Rish Lakish, it makes a lot of sense because he's talking about a machshava pigel, but the machshava pigel won't work because the carbon is possible for other reasons, and therefore ein beikaris. Ela Rabbi Yochanan, my ein beikaris. Who's talking about karis? Someone made a pasal as Rika. That's why the carbon is possible. Where does karis fit in over here? Zok to Gemara, kasher. It's going to be takashver. Ula Shmuel, my ein beikaris. According to Shmuel, it's also not speaking where he had a machshava pigel. So now that I say it's a good zrika, but it's not a good zrika to be matir b'shel b'chila, and if he would have a machshava pigel, then although the carbon will be possible, there won't be a din karis for it. About it. Zok to Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan said that shaloi b'm koyma is lafkim koyma dami. Right? He argues on Rish Lakish, he argues on Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan isha loi b'm koyma lafkim koyma dami. lahava ki nishbach min akli ala ritzba v'yasvenu. You poured it on the wrong part of the mizbeach. It didn't do anything. So why can't you sop it up, get your dam back? You made a Kabbalah. We know if the dam goes straight onto the floor, you never make Kabbalah, it's possible. But here, you made a Kabbalah, and then it's spilled out. So absorb it up from the Mizbeach, and then you have blood, you can spritz it again. Why is it possible? Dr. Gemara, because Rabbi Yochanan knows, he holds that once the dam is on the Mizbeach, even if it wasn't a kosher Izrika, once it's on the Mizbeach, he cannot do Izrika again. The Mizbeach is koyel, a new Chiddush. And the rest of the blot is going to be discussing this Chiddush of the Mizbeach, even though it was not a kosher Izrika, the Mizbeach is koyel to dam, and you won't be able to make another Izrika with this dam. The Amar Bitzuk by Yosef and Rabbi Yochanan. I'm sorry? Right, but here you spritz it on the Mizbeach, it's on the Mizbeach. In the case where you spritz it in the wrong place. No, the Gemara said it should be just like that. I mean, if you spritzed on the mizbech and it wasn't the zrika, so what's the difference if you spritzed it there on the floor? There it is. The mizbech is koilet. The Amar Bitzuk by Yosef Amar Yochanan Hakal Moedim Benitn L'Mayla Shenosn L'Mayla. That means it was spritzed in the right place, or L'Mata Shenosn L'Mata, but Shaloikim Mitzvasan. The kohen did it with his left hand. The kohen did it with a different machshava psul, not a pigel, right? There, everyone's mother lo yasfenu. Then everybody holds that the mizbech is koil, you can't fix that. But there's a machleges tanoim, nechlu alabanit lamayla shenos lamata or lamata shenos lamayla. There we have a machleges tanoim. Rabbi Yosy omer lo yasfenu, Rabbi Shimon omer yasfenu, and Rabbi Yochanan is telling us that our mission is going according to Rabbi Yosy, who says lo yasfenu. Gewaltig. U'mishnah seinu kidivri omer lo yasfenu. Turning on top of the base. Fragt Gemara. Reb Chisda Amar Avimai. No, Reb Chisda argues, and he has a different halach. He says, "Hakoil moedin benitnin lamata shenoston lamala shelo yasfenu." Everybody holds that if the zrika was supposed to be lamata, and you made it lamaila, there for sure you cannot use it again. The mizbech is koilet. The kozhekin benitnin lamaila shenoston lamata. And kosher, if you're supposed to put it lamaila, and you put it lamata. Why? Because anytime you're supposed to put it lamaila, really it's going to go lamata anyway. Hoil v'domim hoil yoinim lamata hin boy. So zogt Reb Chisda, everybody holds if it was on the wrong part of the mizbeach, the mizbeach is koilet it because it's not such a bad zrika. The mizbeach is koilet it, you can't do it again. You know where there's a machlokes? El benitin lefnim shenosna bechutz or bechutz shenosna. If you spritz the dam on the wrong mizbeach, you spritz the dam on the wrong mizbeach, so over there we'll say that it's not that we have machlok. Rabbi Yosef yasfenu, Rabbi Shimon lo yasfenu. Okay. Amar Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak. Afanan nami tenina. We also learned that if I have a mishnah that'll prove that if you hold like Rabbi Yochanan, even if you hold like Rabbi Yochanan, that the zrika is a puzzle is rika, that shaleibim koima is not as rika, the mizbeach will still be koima. Where do you see that? Because Rabbi Yehuda said as follows: there we know there is a halacha that if a carbon became puzzle, and therefore you were not supposed to put its a murim on the mizbeach, but mistakenly they were placed on the mizbeach, you don't take them down. But that doesn't apply to all psulim. There are certain psulim that even though the behemoth was put onto the mizbeach, you have to take it off. How do we learn that you don't have to take it off? From the following pasuk: Tzav v'sa'ayin v'espon of lemar zois toida sa'oila hiya oila al moita al hamizbeach kol alayla ad haboker. So we learn zois hiya oila. It says in the pasuk zois hiya al moita al hamizbeach. Once you put it on the mizbeach, you don't take it off. However, in this pasuk, there's 3 miyutim built in. It says zois, dafka this, and not others. So there are certain karbonis, psulim that will be excluded from this halacha b'al mizbeach. There's ha'ayla, the ha'yidiyah, but not another type of psul, and he. So the 3 miyutim will say, even though normally a carbon that's puzzle that's placed on the mizbeach stays on the mizbeach, there's 3 exceptions. What are the exceptions? Zok Gemara, Yehuda Aimer Zoysi Ayla, Harei Gimel Miyutim, Prat Lenishchita Balayla. If the animal is shechted at night, that's so possible that even if the Murim go on the Mizbech, you take them off. Vishanishbach Dama, or if the dam was spilled out, or Vishayatza Dama, Chutz L'Klayim, if the dam became possible Yotze. Those im also tearing. I want to share a nice word, I think from the Barditcheva, that my Adam told me. We say before duchening v'serayv l'fanechas yiroshenu ka'oila u'ka'karben, and the oil is a type of carbon. So ka'karben, ka'oila ka'karben. Zok the Barditcheva. We're not talking about a carbon oil. We're talking about a parcel of carbon that was on the mizbeach. Was been them to shut up. I wish that even if you look at us like we're psulim, but we're on the mizbeach already. Don't take us off. Listen to Blamendar. Reb Shimon says, Oila. Ainly Oila Ksheira. I would have only known that what type of carbon do the Emurim remain on the Mizbeach if it was Ksheira. Minayin l'rabbis, shenishchet ha'balayla, v'shenishbach dama, v'shiyatza dama chutz l'kloyim. So you see clearly Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon argue. Rabbi Yehuda holds these are not included in the rule. Rabbi Shimon Beferish says they're in the rule, right? Now the rest of the list that Rabbi Shimon is going to have, Rabbi Yehuda is minded to, because if not, he would have said, right? Va'alon, it stayed overnight. Va'yoytze, it left the Azora. Va'tamei, or v'shenishchat chutz lizmanoi, so it was shechted with a kavan of pigol, the chutz l'kaimai, v'shekibloi psulin, a parcel of koyin was makabel the dam, a zor was makabel the dam, v'zorku as dama, or v'hanitin. Now we have our case of our Mishnah. V'hanitin l'mayla, shenitin l'mata, v'hanitin l'mata, shenitin l'mayla, v'hanitin b'fnim, shenotan b'chutz, v'hanitin b'chutz, shenotan b'fnim. V'hapesach v'echat sheshach l'shlo yishma. How do I know that these also you leave on the mizbeach? Tamuloymer Torah sa'oila riba Torah achas l'chol ha'oilin shem olu lo yerdu. So Zok Reb Shimon, since I include every type of a soul, are there any psulim that are excluded that you don't leave on the mizbeach? Yochel sheneimar ba'afar reveya v'nirva v'amuksa, which is designated to be avodah zarah, v'never that was served as an avodah zarah, v'esnan v'mechir v'kalayim v'treifa v'yotzedayfin. I would have thought that all these psulim, if they ended up on the mizbeach, you don't take them off. Tabelomer zois. There is a meat. How do you know which psulim to say remain on the mizbeach and which psulim come off the mizbeach? If it was a carbon and during the processing of the carbon it became possible, like the dam got spilled out, that will stay on the mizbeach. But all these other ones like a Revei and Nirva, which should never have become a carbon in the first place, they were possible even before they became a carbon, those you'll take off. Katanimia, we have in the list of items that you leave on the mizbeach is hanitin lamata, shenatan lamayla, the dam is spritzed in the wrong place, ulamayla shenatan lamata, v'loy polag Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda held, he agrees that these psulim you leave the meat on the mizbeach. Why do you leave the meat on the mizbeach? My time allowed mishum the kolte mizbeach. It must be that since when you spritz the blood on the mizbeach is koilered. Just like the mizbeach is koilered the bosser, and even though it's possible you don't take it off, so too the mizbeach will be koilered the dam, and even though the dam was not spritzed properly, it's possible you still don't take it off. Ushmamina lo yasfendim. So you see a Mishnah that holds that even though it's a parcel of Zrika, nevertheless lo yasfendim. But the shaila is, how do you know the Mishnah holds it's a parcel of Zrika? Maybe this Mishnah holds like Shmuel, that Einim Mekayma is the Mekayma. Zok Rashi, look at the company it keeps. All of the other psulim are zicher parcel. Nishbach Adam, right? Yotza Lechut, they're real psulim. So the Nitten Lamayla, Shnitten Lamata, Vais Techois, they also consider in ganz impossible, yet the Mizbeach is Lechut. Beautiful. Amar Belazer, another Chiddush. Mizbeach apnimi mekadesh psula. What do you mean? The dip to what? Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is Draniyutim. Rabbi Shimon is one miyut, and it applies to anything that was possible before it became kodesh. So Zok to Gemara, Amar Abelazar, Mizbeach Hapnimi Mekadesh Psulim. The Mizbeach Hapnimi is Mekadesh Psulim. What is Mekadesh Psulim? Rashi says, Shim Alu Lo Yerdu. If something went on to the Mizbeach Hapnimi, you don't take it off. The Avagav like Sifkra El Bechita. We'll get to there. We'll get to there. The Mizbeach Hapnimi is Mekadesh Psulim. The pasuk that we had, Hiya Oila Al Moital Mizbeach, is referring to the Mizbeach Hachitzon. Zok Rabbi Elazar, it applies to the Mizbeach Hapnimi as well. What I need Rabbi Elazar to tell me that? Tanina, we learned on Nitnim Befnim, Shenitnim Bechutz, or on Nitnim Bechutz, Shenitnim Befnim. You were supposed to sprish the dam Bechutz, you sprish the dam Befnim, we say that the carbon is still kosher. So Oy Bazoi, I guess this is talking according to the Shitas who hold that Shenim Mekoyim. So what's going to be the Chiddush of Rabbi Elazar? What's going to be the Chiddush of Rabbi Elazar? Zok to Gemara, Ime Hasam, Havamina, Hanamili Dam the Chazile. I would have thought that if the dam was spruced on the wrong Mizbeach, there the Mizbeach Apnimi will be Mekadesh Psulim. Why? Because the Mizbeach Apnimi is a Mizbeach that's made to spritz dam on. Aval Koimitz. But what if by mistake the Kohen put the Koimitz on the Mizbeach Apnimi? The Mizbeach Apnimi never is supposed to have a Koimitz on it. I would think it wouldn't be Mekadesh to Koimitz and you have to take it off. Kamash Rolan, that even a Koimitz stays on the Mizbeach. Gewaltig. Zok to Gemara Meisvei. Keteris Zara should also lagabe Mizbeach. If a Yochid brought Keteris, it's not a sanctioned Keteris, and it was brought on the Mizbeach Hapnimi, I'm sorry, on the Mizbeach Hachitzon, Tered, you take it off. She'ein loch Mekadesh Psulim, I'm sorry, this is on the Mizbeach Hapnimi. She'ein loch Mekadesh Psulim ela Mizbeach Hachitzon. This halacha that it's Mekadesh Psulim, that only applies to the Mizbeach Hachitzon. It doesn't apply to the Mizbeach Hapnimi. And Beroyuloi, also only a carbon that's royu, meaning Rashi says if the kaimitz was not yet in skadish bechli, it's not even royu to put on any mizbeach, that it wouldn't help. Zoktim Chitzon in Pnimiloi. It says beferish dafka the mizbeach Chitzon is mekadesh, not the mizbeach apnimi. It's Shver Rabbi Elazar who said the mizbeach apnimi is also mekadesh psulim. Zoktim Tritzachi. Ketayres Zara should also the mizbeach Chitzon tered. You know why? She'ein mizbeach Chitzon mekadesh psulim ela haroyuloi. We're not talking about Ketayres Zara that was put on the mizbeach apnimi. It was put on the mizbeach Chitzon. The Mizbeach Hachitzon will only be Mekadesh Adavar Aroyuloi. And since you never bring Ketayres on the Mizbeach Hachitzon, it won't be able to be Mekadesh to Ketayres. But the Pnimi, Bein Royuloi, Bein Shein Royuloi, the Mizbeach Pnimi can be Mekadesh anything. Frankly, my time, why should the Mizbeach Pnimi be able to do more than the Mizbeach Hachitzon? The Teretz is Hayritzvah. What is the Mizbeach Hachitzon? It just blocks on the floor of the Zohar. Yes, they were Mekadesh it, the Makam Hazoros and Makam HaMizbeach. That's true, but that's all it is. The high klisharis, but the Mizbeach Apnimi is a klisharis, it's a higher level of kedusha, and therefore it will be able to be Mekadesh, even something that is not royu for it to be brought on. Gevaltic. I just want to look up something very quickly. Yeah, I'm going to keep recording on. I just want to see something. I said something that would only be according. It's only pshita. I was on Rabbi Elazar's my kamash rolon. Tanina, we learned nitn b'fnim, shenitn b'chutz will be good. And I understood that would be going according to Shmuel, who holds that shenim koimim is mekoimoi. But I'm not sure if that's true. I don't think that's true. I think it will be shver according to anybody. Think it will be shver according to anybody, even if he holds it any mekaymai, it still would be mekadosh. You still don't take it off. Second, that's right. If you put the dam on the wrong part of the mizbech, on the mizbech apnimi, the evorim would still be good. So that has nothing to do with if it's mekaymer. Gezok hele gemischte weiter. Hashoicher is a zevach, lizrak dame b'chutz. We're discussing classic cases of pigul, the two types of pigul, chutz l'mkoimai and chutz l'zmanai. So the first half of the Mishnah, we're discussing chutz l'mkoimai. Hashoicher is a zevach, lizrak dame b'chutz, oy mitzvahs dame b'chutz. Pigul works even if you only want to spritz a little bit of blood. Or lahakter emur b'chutz, or mitzvahs emur b'chutz, or lechel b'sori b'chutz, or even kazayis b'sori b'chutz. Oy lechel kazayis me'or ha'alya b'chutz. Or to eat a kazayis of the or alya b'chutz, which would be considered an achila, we would have to see, is this alya supposed to be put on the mizbeach? Are you eating something that was supposed to be put on the mizbeach? Or are you eating something that you're allowed to eat? The Gemara is going to get into that discussion shortly. Possible bein bekaris. This is pigul, but there's no karis if you eat this. You know why? Because the pigul of chutz l'mkoimai, there's no chi of karis if you eat the meat. What about lizrak damei l'machar? Here you have kavanah of chutz l'zmanai, or mitzvahs damei l'machar, or lahakta emur l'machar, or mitzvahs emur l'machar, or lechel b'sari l'machar, or kazayis b'sari l'machar, or lechel kazayis me'or ha'alya l'machar. That's pigul b'chayavin l'karis, because that's all a pigul of chutz l'zmanai.
Maybe that's why we read the Mishnah. We wrote about Kudah, because it's next.
But here we're talking about a machshavas pigul. According to Rabbi Yochanan, we're not talking about a machshavas pigul at all. Svarua, if I'm not mistaken, I think someone actually says your teretz. Because the Gemara says kasha. The Gemara says doesn't say tiyufta. It's kasha. Can't remember. Svarua.
Remember that in Mishnah, like this is one whole Mishnah.
That's right. That's right. Svarua. The Gemara thinks at first glance that or alya ka alya dami. The or of the alya, the hide of the alya is like the alya. Now the halach is kept by a sheep, you have to put its tail on the mizbech. It's one of the parts you're makriv. Do you skin it like you skin the rest of the animal? You don't put the skin on the mizbech. You skin the animal. The alya you don't skin. And not only that, if you skinned it, you have to take that skin and put it on the mizbech too, because the or of the alya has the same thing as the alya. It's considered a murin. Well, the problem is, if it's considered a murin, what was the case over here? He had in zin to eat it, not to be makriv with chutz l'zmanai. He had in zin to eat it chutz l'zmanai. Is there a din pigul if I have in zin to eat what I'm supposed to be makriv on the mizbeach, or vice versa? What if I have in zin to be makriv on the mizbeach what I'm supposed to eat chutz l'zmanai? So the alya is the vital. It has fat. It has mamushas, and it has holt around it.
Does that have a din from Chayim?
Yeah, you're makriv that on the mizbeach. Come on.
So that was a Tamar do mega
I don't know if it's one that chalavim that have a chiyav korish, but you're definitely makriv it on the mizbeach. So zok to Gemara, v'hakam achashiv me'achilas mizbeach l'adam. Will you make a chiyav pigul? Will it create pigul if you had kavanah to eat something chutz l'zmanai that's not even allowed to be eaten at all? Amar Shmuel Amani Rebbe Lozi, the Amar mechashvin me'achilas mizbech lechilas adam u'me'achilas adam lechilas mizbech. Yes, that would also be pigul. It's not we learned. Hashoich it says zevach lechoil davar she'ein darkei lechoil or lahaktir davar she'ein darkei lahaktir kosher. That's not pigul. But for Rebbe Lozi paisel. So you see, Rebbe Lozi holds that mechashvin me'achilas mizbech lechilas adam and vice versa. So you're telling me that this Mishnah that we just learned is only going according to Rebbe Lozer. Let's look at the very next Mishnah that our Gemara brings down, which, as Chaim said, is really one big Mishnah. Let's look at the seif of this Mishnah. It says Zaklal. Here's the key word. So clearly you see, Ein mechashvin me'achilas adam achilas mizbeach. Davar shedarkei lechel in. Also no Rabbanon. That's only going to be according to Rabbanon. So you know what? You know what Shmuel answered? This is Shmuel talking, right? What did Shmuel answer? Shmuel answered, yes, in. And if you look at the Haggais Tzionim, in Reisha Rabbi Lezer v'Sefer Rabbanon. So that's the first shot in our Mishnah. We hold Mechashvin Mechilas Adam Mechilas Mizbeach, and the Ora Alya is just like the Alya, so it's also supposed to be on the Mizbeach. And even though you had a kavanah of pigul to eat something that was supposed to be in the Mizbech, chutz zmano, it's regular pigel. That's what Shmuel holds. Rav Huna had a second pshat in the Mishnah. Rav Huna or alya lavka al yadam. So kum dechois, it doesn't have to be on the Mizbech. Kum dechois, you're allowed to eat it. So this is not a case of mechashvin mechilas Mizbech lachilas adam. It was mechashvin by achilas adam lachilas adam. Amar Rava, my time Rav Huna. What's this? Where did Rav Huna know that the or of the alya doesn't go on the Mizbech? Because it says chel boya alya v'loy or ha'alya. And your Chisda has a third shot. Loy lemar alya ka'alya dami, like Shmuel said. V'hacha b'mayeskina, and you still don't have a raya the mechashim mechilas on mechilas Mizbech. Because what type of alya goes on the Mizbech? But only the alya of a kevish, of a lamb, but not of a goat. V'hacha b'mayeskina b'alya shel gedi. Our Mishnah is speaking about the tail that's shogadi, meaning it doesn't have a din. It doesn't have a din about krov on the Mizbech. Zok to Gemara, let's try to understand why each of these three Amiroyim didn't say the other one's pshat. Kuluk Shmuel loy Amri. You know why nobody liked Shmuel's pshat? Pashut. Reisha v'Rebelezer v'Sefer Rabban and Mukmi. They didn't want to still under Reisha like Rabbi Eliezer and the Sefer like the Rabban. Okay. Karafuna loy Amri. Why didn't they like Ravuna's pshat? Because or alya ka'alya dami. They hold not like him. They hold the or ayis ka'alya, and you'd have to be makabed on the mizbeach when you have a chiyuv to be makabed the alya. And why Rab Chisda my time Eloi Amri? Why didn't they say like Rab Chisda's pshat? Because my kamash malon. If our Mishnah is speaking about the tail of a gdi, which is not something that's on the mizbeach, so that's regular basar. Why does the Mishnah need to speak out the tail of the gdi? It's like any other basar. Are you telling me that the chiddush is or alya ka'alya dami? To tell me that dafka gdi, because if it wasn't the gdi, then in fact you wouldn't be chayiv, it wouldn't be pigel, because or alya is ka'alya, and therefore it's called achilas mizbeach. Is that what the chiddush is? Tanina, I already know from a different Mishnah that or alya is ka'alya. I know it from a Mishnah that talks about tumas oichlin. The elu she'oyrei sein kipsaran. The following oiros are just like basar, and therefore they'll be subject to tumas oichlin. These oiros will be subject because they're soft; you can eat them, and they'll be subject to tumas nevela. And what is that? Or shetachas alya, the or that's underneath the tail. So you see, that's mamish what we're talking about. Zok to Gemara, Rab Chisda, no, I wouldn't know it from tumatayra. So kadayda chamina hanimi lilin tuma. The rochich, it's soft. Therefore, mitzdarif, it's considered food. Abel hacha, in order to be considered something that you put onto the mizbeach, the Torah says, "Hinini nasati lachosh mishmeres trumoisa lechokotche b'nei Yisrael lecho nasatim l'moshcha." L'moshcha means it's a prestigious achila. Eating the hide of an alya is not something that a king would eat. Eim l'moshcha l'gedula kedech shamalachem oichlin. They would have read it. So therefore, maybe you don't put it on the mizbeach. No. If you hold or ayak al yadami, you have to put it on the mizbeach. I do need our Mishnah to tell us that lagabe karbanos. Beautiful. So now we understand each of the three shitas. Freit Gemara Meisvit. The Gemara is now going to ask Akasha. Hashoichet es ha'oila lahaktir kizayis me'or shetachas ha'alya chutzlim kaimai. So someone shechted an oila. Now this is an oila, not a shlamim. An oila is unique. Rashi is going to tell us that it doesn't say that you put meat on the mizbeach. Rashi says by the oila, it just says v'nitech oisel nesachav, and just put all of the nesachim on the mizbeach. The Torah doesn't refer to the items that you have to put on the mizbeach as chalakim of the animal. It's just netachim. So zok to Gemara, ashoichet es ha'oila lahaktir kizayis me'or shetachas ha'alya chutz l'm kaimoi. That's pigel. Pasal me'mekaris. Plus the zmanoi pigel v'chevel of karis. Why? Because or shetachas ha'alya is part of what you're making on the mizbeach. Elazar ben Yehuda ish avelim oimer mishum Yaakov v'chein hayer Rab Shimon ben Yehuda ish kfar ikos oimer mishum Rab Shimon. Echad or base parshas beimedaka, which is the skin below the knee of a beimedaka, which is also very soft and it's edible. The echad or haroish shall egel arach, soft skin from the head. The echad or shetachas alya, And v'chol shemanu gabei tuma ve'elu sharisein kivsaron, when the Mishnah discusses tuma tahira, all of those oiros that the Mishnah considers basar the Indian tuma v'tahira, and specifically lahavi or shall base aboishes, even the or of the mukam of the nekeva where the baby is born out of, even there, it's considered basar, sai for tuma, sai for the oila, and therefore, if you had a kavanah of chutz from koimai pasal ben bekaris, chutz is man pickle b'chiyav and love karis. But we make a dik oila in dafke because it was an oila aval zevach loy, but not a zevach. Zokt Rashi, oila in gabi oila hu detana machsheves aktaris or alya de pasla aval zevach stama loy kadani. It doesn't say any carbon dafka oila. Shmami no ein machsheves aktaris me elas. Only by an oila would it work, but it wouldn't work by shar zvachim. There, it wouldn't be considered meat that belongs on the mizbeach. What did Rab Huna say before? Rab Huna said, "Or alya lafka alya dami." That'll be gevaltik. Hani de katani oila dafka an oila and not another zevach. As Rashi says, the Amar behedya might take kra gabe alya didn't have a imurin. The Torah says that the chelav alya, not the or alya. The miyat of chelav alya is speaking by a zevach, by a shlamim. By an oila, it says hanasachim. The or alya basar. Or alya is considered basar, so it's one of the emurim. You put it on the mizbeach only by the oila, but not by the zevach. So according to Rab Huna, this price is perfect. However, El Rab Chisda, who learned that or alya is kal yudami, and you'd have to put it on the mizbeach. How come the Brisa didn't say Zevach? Every carbon, why dafka oila? I have two pshatim. Maybe the aliyah that this Brisa is talking about is also aliyah shel gedi that doesn't go on the mizbeach, or the boyisema, that doesn't go on the mizbeach by a Zevach, but would go on the mizbeach by an oila. The boyisema tani Zevach, or maybe we got to change the lashon Brisa, not dafka oila, even a Zevach. To finish Daf Chof Ches. Tomorrow we're going to hopefully finish Daf Chof Ches on the base as well as Daf Chof Test. That will be our goal.